What's up guys, Ryan here from Mud Gunner, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about rails, specifically rails for AR-15s, but this will also work with some other guns as well. We're talking the different types of rail mounting systems, and I would say, at least in the gun industry, there are three main ones. There are going to be the oddball, like specific ones, like HK has their own, LWRC has their own. There's a few that has their own, but we're talking the three main ones, and that is Picatinny rail or quad rail. We're talking M-Lok and Keymod. So if you've been curious about any of those, I'm going to talk about all of them. And if you have any questions, comment down below and I'll try to respond as best I can, but maybe I'll answer your question during the video. So, and I'll show you guys close-ups of the guns as well, but we're going to quickly talk about it. So I have three different ARs here, and all three of them have a different style of mounting system on their rail. So the first one we have is Pic rail or Picatinny rail, also known as quad rail. I don't know where Picatinny comes from. I don't know who designed it, but it is probably the most tried and true rail. It's been around, I believe the longest is before M-Lok, before Keymod, and honestly, this is the gold standard for mounting things. You'll notice on the top of almost every rifle nowadays, it is a pic rail on top because it's the most effective way of mounting. You're probably never gonna be mounting a optic on an M-Lok rail on the top of your receiver. I just don't see it happening. So as far as the most secure, I would honestly say pic rail is the most secure, the most tried and true option. But there are downsides to it, and part of that is going to be the weight of the rail and the bulk of the rail, because you'll notice this is a beefier rail. There are slimmer quad rails as well, but relatively speaking, it's a bulkier rail with a little bit more weight. And then you also have the pic rail, which can be a little sharp depending on who makes it and what you have on there. There are plenty of companies that make rail covers. You'll notice this has a lot of flat dark earth rail covers, and it kind of completes the look of the gun. This is a Daniel Defense, in case you're wondering. It's an M4A1. So this style of rail has been out for like 20 years or 20 plus years. Daniel Defense makes military rails. Knight's Armament also makes military rails, and there's other companies now too. But I would say they're probably the first couple that mainly did the quad rails, as far as I know. There's obviously going to be some other ones as well, but those are the two big ones as of right now. But yeah, Picatinny, it's just the same top rail all around on the rail. So you have the bottom and then your sides. So that is probably the easiest way of mounting something, and all you need normally is a flathead screwdriver of some type. So everything can be done with just a standard tool set for the most part on AR-15s. They're very easy to work on, very easy to add stuff to with the right rail. If you have polymer handguards, not all of those are set up to run stuff, but yeah, quad rail has been probably the most popular over the years, but I would say there is a new sheriff in town when it comes to rails, and that's going to be, where is it? The M-Lok. The M-Lok is probably the most popular option as of right now. As sad as I am to say that, quad rail is my favorite by far, but M-Lok is probably the new most popular type of rail mounting system. What we have here is a BCM. This is their Recce 14, and this has an M-Lok rail. You'll notice it's much slimmer, very sleek looking, and I can wrap my whole hand around this, and yeah, can't really do that as well with the Daniel Defense. I can't touch my fingers there, but I also don't have huge hands. So M-Lok, you can get much slimmer and still be very effective. You can also get more mounting system. Like you can do, instead of just your standard 4 position, you basically have a octagonal rail mounting system, which is pretty crazy. Now they're not all completely usable. It'd be kind of hard to get it close on the rail, but you have 8 sides of rail basically, which is pretty cool. Again, not all companies do this, but yeah, BCM rails are very nice, and again, slimline, and it's a very nice mounting system. I don't have anything on here. I'm gonna show you guys how to mount stuff to these types of rails too. I'm gonna bring the camera in a little closer in a minute. So basically you just have slots and everything is screw clamped on. So you're gonna put the item in and you're gonna tighten screws and it's gonna clamp the rail to whatever accessory you're putting on there, versus this where you're just tightening it on the outside. So it locks from the inside versus the outside. And it's very effective. I haven't had any issues with it, but honestly, with the store I work at, I see a lot of messed up M-Lok mounts coming through the store. Basically, people just don't know how to tighten them properly, and I'm gonna show you guys. If you're new, I get it, like it's a little confusing at first, but I'll show you guys how to get it done the right way. And the next one we're gonna talk about is the Keymod. Now, Keymod, I think, has been around longer than M-Lok, and I understand how they kind of developed the style for it. If you've ever built like a storage rack from Home Depot or whatnot, a lot of new ones are actually switched away from this, but a lot of the old ones used to be Keymod, and you'll still see them nowadays on racks. Just pay attention to like a storage rack. A lot of them are Keymod, where you basically have a big circle that kind of leans in into like a little straight flat. And you have a circular mounting system that goes in the hole, slides forward and clamps down to lock it in place. So it doesn't just get straight side mounted, it'll go in and then forward and then lock. And that's, again, how a lot of storage racks were made. But yeah, Keymod, I think they got it for guns specifically from storage racks because it was pretty effective, and it's still an effective mount, but I would say it's kind of lost its popularity. Most companies nowadays are phasing it out. This is a Daniel Defense V11 right here. I still like it. This is in the tornado gray color. And yeah, this for a long time has been an iconic Keymod rifle that I know of. BCM also was known for their Keymod rails. They still do them, but again, they're just not as common anymore. But again, you have the circular hole, you put the whatever you're mounting in and then slide it forward and it locks in place. You can still get rail covers, and these ones still just pop into place, but it's not the same as M-Lok. So anything that is Keymod attached will not go to M-Lok and vice versa. I'm sure you can maybe Bubba Gump it to work. And I've seen some really odd ways of stuff being mounted to guns, so I've probably seen it done. But for the most part, Keymod and M-Lok are not interchangeable. But again, the top rail is still Picatinny rail on most guns. And you'll notice the light on here, the light on there, and, well, the pressure pad on here, they're all mounted to the top Picatinny rail. So even if you don't have a full rail, you don't necessarily need it to be able to mount accessories. I have a couple guns where almost everything that's mounted to it is mounted on the top rail because you can make it very useful. You can mount sling mounts there, your lights, and whatever else you might need. You can mount it all to the top rail for the most part. But I do like having the rest of the rail. I'll add like vertical grips or accessories here. I took the one off here to kind of show you guys how it mounts, but yeah. The side rails and bottom rails are nice for mounting other accessories. So let me bring you guys closer in to show you how all these rails work, and yeah, hopefully it helps you out. All right, so here is the Picatinny rail again. Again, basically the whole top rail on most guns is Picatinny, and then just the rest of this one specifically is. So this would also be called quad rail. That's probably the more common term is, oh, I'm looking for a gun that has a quad rail on it, but it's basically just 4 Picatinny rails all around on here. So the way you attach most things is, again, by basically clamping it on with a screwdriver. So a lot of it uses a flathead. There are some odd things that use Phillips, or they'll use like a star or straight Allen key. So with these, you would unscrew these and they come all the way out, and this one actually slides on. So if you're sliding this on, you can't have any rail covers on there because it's got to come from the front or the back, which none of them will ever come from the back. But something like this, you just take a screwdriver and then we're going to loosen this up. And I'm just showing this as a demonstration. And you'll notice there are 2 grooves here that are going to interface into the rail. So they'll fit in the slot, and that's what's going to hold it from going forward or backward. And then you're clamping this down to prevent it from going side to side. And these are very solid mounting solutions. So normally you have to have it open in a way or just angle it a certain way on there. So I'm going to angle it this way, see if we have enough. I accidentally took it all the way off because it wasn't moving very well, but you can do that too. So this would just go right here. And you see it locks it into place, so again, it can't go forward or backward. And then you would just tighten this on and it clamps it to the rail, which I'm not leaving this on here. I'm just showing you guys for this demonstration. Almost there. But basically you have that, and now this is rock solid, it's not going anywhere. And this is how everything is mounted. Again, a lot of it will use either a star key or like a straight up Allen. So this one has 2 screws that are holding it in place. This one has the 1 screw. This one has 2 screws. So you see, they're basically just clamping it to the sides of the rail. And then the slots that line up in there prevent it from moving forward or backward. So it's a very effective way, and I think they chose this just for simplicity in the military, because you figure a lot of the military is 18-year-old kids, and you want them to have the easiest way of putting it on. I've seen a lot of people mess up mounting things to M-Lok or Keymod, so we'll do those next. We'll move to M-Lok, because that is probably the most popular one nowadays. So here's M-Lok. You'll notice I still have my light mounted on here, and how this attaches. On M-Lok accessories, you normally have about 2 screws that hold it into place, and you have these little clamps here, and what I need to do is loosen these up. So you can't really see in there, but you got to figure out what Allen piece fits in there. So I'm going to grab that. So you notice they're actually a little too tight right now, so I'm going to have to loosen these and it's kind of tight just to loosen by hand because there is Loctite under here. So what I'm going to do to loosen this up, because they're both too tight, is I'm actually going to slide it in the rail, and I'm going to just back it up while it's in the rail because it's going to kind of lock in place there. So I'm going to unscrew it, and it's just standard righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, but I'm unscrewing that. And now you'll notice some exposed threads. So you don't need it extremely far out. This should be enough. So we're going to do the same thing on here. So you just use the screwdriver, go in from underneath, and you'll notice it's spinning it. So I'm going to put it in the rail and spin it lefty-loosey. So now that is loose. And basically the way you tighten this in the rail is you put it in where it's long ways, because it's got to fit in the slot. So once it's long ways, you need to have both of these tighten 90 degrees exactly, and they should fall into place. So when they're in the rail, they're going to look exactly like that. And that's what holds it into place. But I've seen people where they tighten them to where it's just kind of all crooked like this, and it's not a super tight fit because it's not fully locked down. I'm going to show you guys another way how I've seen these mounted, which it worked for the person, but it's not ideal. So I'm going to put this in the rail. Just got to find that. So I've seen it. I've seen it like this, where it didn't fall fully into the groove and that leaves a gap there. So you do not want that because it's not going to be secure. You might be able to tighten that front one all the way down or most of the way down, but you're not going to tighten that back one. And you'll notice it's kind of crooked in there. So what we need to do is we're going to loosen up this one. This part's going to be harder to show you guys because it's all happening inside the rail. All right, so I'm going to go counterclockwise, lefty-loosey. So I'm going to loosen it up, and I'm going to slide it forward. And see how it fell into groove there? Because there's little notches that hold it into the rail, but it has to be perfectly in the middle, otherwise it locks up like that. So I'm going to slide it forward, and it falls into place, and there should be no gap between there. And then once you have it lined up, you're going to tighten it. And again, this is going to be hard to show you guys. It's all right. So I'm trying to hold this as best I can. So see how it's crooked right now? You want it to turn right there, and it should fall into place once it's low enough. If it's too high, like there's too much exposed threads, it's not going to fall into place. But right now it's in the perfect spot where if I tighten it, the screw is coming out, but it's not moving because it's locked into place. Now with this back one here, see how that back one is just spinning? It's because it's not close enough to the rail to actually catch onto the rail. So what you have to do is pull it down, and sometimes you have to loosen this one to tighten that one, but you kind of just go back and forth until they both look exactly like that, and then there's no space in there. So again, this is kind of hard to show on the camera because I only have two hands, but I'm going to loosen this front one. I just did this as an example for you guys. All right, so making sure I'm mostly on the camera. So I'm going to loosen this one just a little bit. So see how it pops out because now it's straight, it's not all the way lined up. I'm loosening that just a little bit more, and then now you can pull down, and it kind of catches if they're not lined up straight. But while I'm angling it down, I'm going to just tighten this one a little bit. So I'm pulling down so that one will catch in that slot. So I'll tighten it up a little bit, and then we can tighten this one before we go all the way. So you might have to just go back and forth to tighten them up. So now I got to loosen this one a little bit so it can fall back into the track. So I'm going lefty-loosey to loosen it, and then now I can tighten it while it's in the track. So now it's in the track, and now it's mostly tight. So I'm going to go back to the other one, just go a little bit more, and then at this point you can tighten it all the way because most of the gap is all closed. So now it's fully locked on, and you'll notice they're both lined up 90 degrees. So it's not crooked, that means it's fully locked in place there, and then you'll notice there's no gap underneath. The other thing when mounting accessories, I've seen this on guns, where some of the screws are so long that they're pressing against your barrel. You do not want that, because if you have a screw pressing against your barrel, you are not going to be accurate, because every time you shoot, that barrel and your rail are actually moving separate from each other. This is what's known as a free-floating barrel, so the barrel moves every time you shoot. The rail should not move as much because it's mounted to your upper receiver. But what happens is if that screw is touching the barrel, you're preventing the proper barrel harmonics. So it's vibrating against the barrel and it's gonna affect your accuracy. So always make sure your screws are not pressing against your barrel. I have seen that. You also have to watch around gas blocks, because those screws, if I tried to put this mount right here, which it will fit, it will press against that gas block. So you do not want your screw pressing against the gas block from the side or from the bottom, and you don't want it pressing against your barrel. So always be cautious of that. I have had people try to sell us guns or sell us guns because they said the gun wasn't accurate, but then we inspected it further and we noticed that the screws were pressed up against their barrel or gas block, and you will not shoot accurately, or not, at least not consistently, if that's the case. So that is how you mount M-Lok, and yeah, hopefully it's pretty easy to show you guys. I'm gonna show you one other thing. This is my SIG MCX Virtus here. This is also an M-Lok rail, but you'll notice they're all covered. So I like these rail covers. These are from Bravo Company, and they just pop right in and cover your exposed M-Lok rail. And this is an M-Lok cover from BCM. This is a Keymod cover from BCM. So you'll notice they're very different. This will not work in here, even though from this side, they're the exact same. So just pay attention to what accessories you're buying, because they are M-Lok and Keymod specific. It's very easy to determine a Picatinny one because they clip on from the outside, but these mount from the inside. So just know that. You'll notice this is an M-Lok light mount on the side, and it keeps it pretty flush. That's the other thing with M-Lok. You can normally get accessories pretty flush to the rail. This one's a little bit higher, but for the most part, you can get things very tight to the rail. And this is also another vertical grip that was mounted onto here, but yep. And then I'll even cut the M-Lok pieces to line up a little bit better with this, so it's fully covered. And then putting these in, once you have the right length, you just pop it in, and they're just kind of held in by friction. I have had some rails where the tolerances weren't exact, or they were slightly different. So these are pretty universal. They'll work in almost every gun, but I have had rails where these just fall out from shooting because it was too loose in there. But so far on most of the high-end guns, it's not an issue. It's just on some lower end rails for some reason, but not all tolerances in the AR community or just gun manufacturers are the exact same. Even though they're M-Lok, there are different tolerances in the different brands. So something to know. And now finally, the last one, we have Keymod. So this one's pretty nice. So if I were to take this off, I would just loosen both of these screws. It's gonna slide back and out, and that's how that would attach. What I actually run on this is this BCM grip. Now this one mounts kind of interestingly. There's no screws actually required for this, which is pretty cool, because a lot of times it is just a screw that goes in, go forward, and locks in place. But with this one, this grip, it kind of locks in right here. So this is what it's going to look like on the gun. But to loosen this up, because it's actually tightening the mounts when you twist this on, you're going to push up right here and loosen it. And that takes the tension off of these. So how I mount this, I have to take this rail section off right here. Again, they just peel off. Sometimes it's hard to get your fingernail under there. But for this, with these grips, you can have them either way. I angle mine this way to where it's kind of more angled back, because this is a slight angled grip. It's not completely vertical. But what we're going to do is we're going to push these in right here. So it's going to go in the hole, and then it's going to slide forward. And it's not locked in place until we actually clamp it down, or at this point you would tighten screws. But that's how Keymod mounts, is it's in the big hole and slides forward. Now you would think that's pretty secure, and it is. I haven't had any personal issues, but I have heard of certain accessories, either rail sections or other things, that have slid off because it doesn't lock in place the way M-Lok does, because there's no like tabs that are really locking it into place. It's just sliding and it's held together by friction. With those M-Lok screws, there's a tab that prevents them from rotating out. Where this, there's no prevention from rotating. It's just held together by friction. So again, just slide that in and forward. And then specifically for this grip, this is not all grips, you're just gonna screw this on. And that's actually pretty cool on BCM's part, but you have to make sure it stays forward, because if I slide it back right now, it's gonna pop off. So you have to hold it forward while you're tightening it. I'll push this up and twist again. Why is it locked? It's actually pretty tight right now. Okay, I figured out what I did wrong. I guess when I had this right here, it was pressing too much against that rail. So I didn't exactly remember how I took this off or where it was when I took it off, but I had this on here, so I just lined this up. Sorry guys. I don't take these off very often, but once I had it on, it was locked on. So I just had that, and then I thought I had it one more notch forward, but see, now I can even take it off because that's pressing it. I thought I had it one more notch forward, but now I can fully tighten it. So I just go one more, just press this up, and it locks in place, no problem. So BCM one's kind of different compared to most, because like I said, a lot of accessories, they'll go in the big hole, slide forward, and clamp in place with screws. Also, if you're using Allens, make sure you use the right size, because these come in stripped all the time. And yeah, it's kind of a pain to take them out if you strip them. But aside from that, I do like this BCM angled grip. I use these on a lot of guns, and then I use BCM rail covers on a lot of guns too. So this will just pop in place right here. And you'll see from the side, it's gonna fully clamp down. And then it lines up very flush. You can't even tell it's there from the side. But it gives you some texture, and it protects your rail from getting all beat up. And this one's just a little bit nicer one. I forget who makes this one exactly, but the way I hold this is I wrap right here, and if I need the light, I can press right there for the light. So, hope this video helped you guys. I know it's a little confusing with these rails and how stuff mounts, but once you get the hang of it, it's not so bad. And then as far as a screwdriver set, I like this Wheeler set. It has a bunch of different options for screw mounts, and to me, this one has been very helpful. Occasionally you get the weird star mounts or the Allens that don't work, but this one has worked pretty well for me. So again, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for my next video. On a side note, blue Loctite is very helpful with mounting things that you don't want to back off. All right, thanks for watching, guys.